Okay, awesome. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We were so delighted to see how much engagement the last session with Imad got, and really glad that we're all together again here today for a smaller, more informal space where we can sort of continue the conversation and speak up with all sorts of questions and comments around custom GPTs. So please do feel free to turn on I think you should be able to turn on your cameras.
I'm enabling this now, yeah.
You're enabling it. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. I encourage you all, if and when possible, to keep the cameras on just to encourage discussion. And yeah, over to you, Imad. Thank you guys for joining and really looking forward to this session with you all.
Thank you so much, Fiona and Joanna. This is it meant to be a smaller group. We're just experimenting with having more of an intimate conversation, as this topic is an emergent topic, at least within the UN. We wanted to hear more from everyone, where we can exchange some experiences about where we at, what we're up to, how can we learn from each other, but also how can we help each other grow within this area that is changing over time, and making our work easier or challenging at a certain point. So this is going to be more of like a conversation. So please you can jump in at a certain point and ask questions, or if you like to add something in there on the chat to complement what's being said, this will be great. We have a proposed structure that we're just gonna go quickly to have few examples of how other colleagues from the UN have implemented or developed custom GPTs, to give you an overview of how how is it evolving within the UN. Then this will be like already designed solutions that we can see, we can experiment with it, and we can get some insights from those developers. And if we have colleagues from UNESCO, UNHCR, or Unify HR, we'll be grateful if you can share your experiences, because you already have those in public. Then the second part will be in focusing on those who are developing custom GPTs. They are still in the phase of planning, in the phase of ideation, that want to get some feedback and help with their ideas. Maybe we can discuss some of the best solutions that is available right now. And then we will have a bit of open discussion about some challenges that some of you might be facing, whether it's organizational, whether it's inter-agency challenges, but also maybe with the technology and some of the learning. Hopefully with those insight, we can try to help as much as possible with either learning experiences or sharing some of the experiences we have. My name is Imad Karim. I'm from UN Women Regional Office for Asia Pacific. I led the last session on custom GPTs, and we've been since then we have also been experimenting with a lot of demos, a lot of solutions. We also started working with Copilot, so I'll be happy to share some of our experiences with this. But right here, this is going to be the overview of the session. Unless any one of you would like to add anything to that agenda, we can start with some of the already made custom GPTs presentation, quick overview, and we'll leave it to a few of our colleagues who already mentioned that some of their things. Is there someone from UNESCO online?
I haven't found them yet, Imad, but I saw Chloe from UNHCR. I don't want to put her on the spot, but so I saw her.
Yeah.
Actually, I am with my colleague Caroline from UNHCR. So we are both here from UNHCR because we have several. I mean, both of us, I think we can talk about several chatbot projects. So we have, I think, 3 at UNHCR. Caroline, you can correct me. And we have 1 interagency with 13 UN organizations. Yeah, Caroline, you want?
And we've got, I think, how many did you say? 3 that are chatbots?
That are, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we've got another maybe 6 or 7 that are in various stage of moving into production. So in addition to HR, finance, we've got 3 or 4 for planning, 1 for policy development, and quite a few others for innovation. So the pipeline's growing. So it's exciting times.
Wow.
Stressful as well.
This is really exciting, and this is awesome. Maybe just like if you wanna share with us one of the, one of those GPTs or one of the solutions that you're mostly proud of, or something that you feel that this has been successful, or
So my
would be of
camera's low.
interest. Just
Claudia,
2 minutes
yeah.
quickly, yeah?
Are you ready to show the HR one? Because I think
Yeah.
that's the one that to me is one of the flagships. It's really for end
Yeah.
users. We have others, but that one I think is a great one to start with. And the next time, we're happy to show the policy development, which is actually taking it to the next level.
Awesome.
Sorry, I'm not used to Zoom. Can you see the screen? Or? Yes?
It's loading. Yes.
It's perfect. Well done, Claudia.
Okay, good. So I'm showing people chat. It's the chatbot we have at UNHCR. And basically, we can ask any questions about HR policies. So it's available for all staff. So for example, what is the sick leave entitlement for temporary contracts? So it will generate the question here. I could also select if I want to look only staff rules or policy or administrative instruction or guidance. So it's giving the answer. It will always look at the staff regulations and rules and administrative instructions to give the answer. And then we can open the page to find the reference to the document to double check the information, so the relevant staff rule, or we can find the whole document if we want to double check the information. And of course, we can ask the question in any UN language. So if I say translate into French, then it will translate into French or any other language, or I could have asked the question directly in French and it will have found the document in English. Oh, it's not, no, it's not the, and just to say that, so I can ask again, but here we have different icons that we have created. So to create a presentation. So if I want a presentation on the flexible work policy, I will ask and it will generate text for presentation. I could paste an email, which I've received from staff here. And with email, it will generate automatically a response. Or I could ask for a summary of a policy and it will give me the summary of a policy. Or I could ask with the FAQ questions and to generate questions and answer on a document for a quiz, or for example. So that's our chatbot available to all staff at UNHCR on HR. And here, that's the interagency chatbot, Unify. And this chatbot was developed in collaboration with 13 UN organizations, and UNICC is managing this project. And there we can do basically 2 things. So we can, I can ask a question about UNHCR framework. So the same type of question about HR, like, what is the home leave entitlement? How can I manage the performance of my staff member, stuff like that? And it will answer. Or I can compare the policies of other UN organizations. So if I select 3 UN organizations and ask a question about these 3 UN organizations, it will give me a summary of similarities and differences between organizations. So, for example, if I ask about part-time work, because I selected UNDP, ITU, and UNHCR, it's looking at all of the policies of ITU, UNDP, and UNHCR on part-time work, finding the most relevant paragraph of the policy. And then it's analyzing the similarities and the differences, and then providing an analysis of that. So it's taking a bit more time because it's a lot of policies to compare. They are in this database, we have close to 1,000 documents from the 13 UN organizations. So it's a lot of documents. So while it's loading, the answer, this is to say that we developed this project. Okay, so you see here that there are the similarities in terms of part-time work and the differences between the 3 UN organizations. For example, in terms of options for part-time work. And here you have the
Oh, wow.
references also that you can
That's so
click and
cool.
you can click and see.
Okay. This is wonderful. Are those, I mean, I have a question because we want to also see other examples, and I think this is really amazing. Do you have a quick overview of how the technology is behind this? What have you used? Are they all using the same model or technology?
Yes, it's the same technology, and Caroline can add on this, but we have used the OpenAI Azure solution. So basically the documents are indexed with Azure, and we are using GPT. So in Unify, we are using GPT-4, and at UNHCR, we are using GPT-4 Mini, 4o Mini, to generate the answers. But Caroline, you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. We're for the moment trying to, I guess, capitalize on the investment we've made in the Azure, Microsoft agreements, using the privileges and immunities, because we are looking at grounding it in UNHCR data. So that's really important to us. And I guess the same as we built the solution or the proof of concept for Unify HR, same principle when we pass that over to you in ICC. So that was our thinking. We are looking to explore with AWS as well, as we have an agreement with AWS. So that's something that's on our pipeline. And working with our partner LTI, we're exploring working with their AI lab as well to do a little bit more innovation, explore with other models. We have, let's say, the use cases that are coming out now are beyond just simply chat, not simply, but beyond chat with your data. It's now chat with your data, structured, unstructured, and a little bit of everything. And can we also add a higher level or more sophisticated comparison for a legal assistant, for instance? Can we now go and look at different news sources? So the use cases are becoming more complex. So I think we need to look beyond what we've already got, but our High Commissioner is all about efficiencies these days. We're in a very tight budget scenario, so that's also driving the tech choice, I think, if I may say. It's efficiency. I hear he's in Budapest today. That was his message at our service center: get efficiencies as much as we can. So I don't know if that helps, but we can give more on the tech side.
Awesome.
Mark, our solution engineer, is on leave today. He's back next week.
Awesome. These are really great example, and congratulations, UNHCR. This is really wonderful and inspiring to also hear about the different solutions that you're leading. Wanted to check with if others have some burning questions before we jump into some examples, so we can have also a diverse examples from other agencies, but then we're also going to have a larger open space for Q&A at the end of the session. I wanted to check if Leah Phillips from UNDP also want to come and share some of their amazing work. Yay.
Happy to jump in. Hi, everyone. I'm Leah Phillips from UNDP, here with my colleague Julianne. So over the last year and a half, I'll just add, this isn't custom GPT necessarily, but it is GPT in a way that we've customized it. But no, we don't have like a chat bot mechanism, but basically we've supported a large number of countries to assess similarity between their national biodiversity targets and the global targets of the global biodiversity framework. So we've essentially set up an analysis. Just gonna share really quickly. We've just set up a bit of an analysis just to show you, like, this is our methodological framework, basically to assess similarity between these global and national targets. And so what we've found is that we're able to feed in the targets of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and a country's national targets and produce NBSAP target similarity assessments, which then, of course, we strongly encourage that countries review with stakeholders. You can kind of see the general methodology, but this is a GPT 3.5. We're considering maybe moving to more advanced GPTs. Of course, there are some funding restrictions. And we found that GPT with the right type of prompt is able to do a good job of analyzing similarity between national and global targets. And the output is like a written assessment that includes recommendations and a whole, essentially we create like a whole report, which is produced through our Markdown. Anyways, I'm going to share in the chat a link to a publication that we just produced on this work, and it includes like a GitHub link if in case anyone's curious or wants to try to run these types of analyses yourselves. Again, not exactly, there's no chatbot function, although it would be really cool if there was. This is more something where we're using GPT 3.5 Turbo to run analysis and then using our Markdown to make it prettier. All right, thanks all.
Thank you so much, Leah and Julian. Is there any questions?
No
Rest of the
questions,
group?
but I can share our experience. Alexandra Varyuta, Unida Digitalization Analytics Officer. So during the DTN, we presented our AI-powered search, which which should help users to help information about various internal policies. That's going to be HR policies, procurement manuals, for example, our technical cooperation guidelines, evaluation reports. So it's kind of like the pot of everything that we have. And maybe I will share the biggest issue that we faced was the quality of data. Well, you will think that policies are kind of like up to date, but the issue in UN that when one policy is released, another policy is only can be partially superseded or fully superseded. So here, I would like maybe since UNHCR had such an experience and they rolled it out because we are about to roll it out in December. The Christmas present to our colleagues. So how did you go about those documents which were partially superseded? Because you can remove the fully superseded documents, but if the document was partially superseded, what was your strategy? Did you try to, what did you do basically about it? Because we have an idea of like maybe, okay, then we will open PDF and just cut it out, we will only put the parts which are still active. Because, well, AI cannot, AI is not that smart, unfortunately.
I understand your pain. We went through this also, but to be honest, in HR, we only had 2 documents that were partially superseded. So it was not massive. So I'm talking about as a previous policy officer. So I always try to make sure the documents are fully superseded. And we did some kind of cleaning with the data set to make sure that there is no duplicate in terms of information and stuff like that, even in different languages or but the only solution is to cut the document, as you said, because otherwise we tried, tagging with metadata and stuff like that, and it just didn't work. So
I agree. ChatGPT AI is just not there yet.
No.
Maybe in the future, but in my experience as well, we've done with other data sets, it's not quite there. So our jobs are safe for a little while.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And this, but basically, this whole thing we discovered when we did the UAT and the pilot phase. So we asked users, go provide us the feedback, and majority of the feedback was, well, this is outdated. We don't have that division anymore. And then I see that the document is there. It's still referenced by the main document. And yeah, it asks about the old secretariat structure. And then later they say, well, yeah, it's partially superseded. But they're like, okay, how would they I know that? Yeah, and yeah, I
But
might.
I wonder, just
Mhm.
maybe a question, and we're jumping into the following section that is related to the challenges with dealing with the custom GPTs. You're mentioning the policies and the data sets, which is mostly us as staff and our work and regulations. And I was wondering because we started a little bit of the conversation about some challenges related to the outcome of that is related to the technology itself and why it's not there yet. I wonder from your experiences, or also UNHCR and UNDP colleagues, feel free to jump in to highlight some of those
All right.
limitation with the technology.
Okay, all right. Yeah, if I may, and I will talk about our architecture. Yeah, so we went with the simplest one, not the simplest one, but the most popular one. Yeah, retrieval, augmentation, generation. Yeah, which is the first R stands for retrieval. And so we went when the issue happens on the retrieval side. Yeah, so if you put into the index some outdated document and you ask the question about the piece of text which will have the same similarity search, it will just drag it out of it. Yeah. So the first system was very simple. Yeah, it was only retrieval and answer generation. Then later, and by the way, we used the Google Stack, yeah, and we saw the evolvement of the progress, how better and better it got with the time, yeah. So, for example, in July, they released 2 new APIs, maybe June, re-ranker and grounding. Re-ranker, this is just a ranking function, yeah? So basically you have the retrieval function, then you submit all of these results to re-ranker, which actually checks whether the text helps to answer the question, because it's multiple pieces of information. And then we do the answer generation and the grounding, yeah, the citations checks. So when we started, yeah, none of this was available. And as most of you, we probably started like in May 2023.
Exactly.
May
Exactly. Yeah.
2023, yeah. And it's so hard and so exhausting because you do one step further and then you do 2 steps the majority of the time because they release something. So sometimes it's very hard to be motivated in that sense. The evaluation framework was not there yet. Now it's like out of the box. Before you need to run around and think, okay, how to evaluate this, yeah, how to create the golden standard for evaluation. And everybody, because they're so spoiled with ChatGPT, they were like, well, it should work, but you need pairs of golden standard questions and answers. So yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's the biggest challenge that we had as well with that one.
yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, this is really helpful, and I think it's also a challenge that a lot of us facing with how fast and rapid the technology is evolving than our response, and what to do with the investment that we started when the technology was more expensive and we spent a lot of time to figure it out, and now it's like, oh, we got an upgrade, you don't need to do all of that, but this means you need to change.
Yeah.
You, UNISR colleagues, I see that you're actually jumping in with a lot of fast production. And I was just wondering 2 questions. One is also related to what are the challenges that you face in the output or the results related to the technology, but also what kind of capacity, who produces your technology, who is maintaining it? Uh, how are you making this decision about, okay, we're producing another chatbot that does this, and the selection of the technology itself? Other colleagues also feel free please to ask questions and
Okay.
So not just mood rating. Yeah.
Maybe I'll
Back
take
to
the
you.
first question and then Caroline can take the second one. So on the challenges, yes, like Alexandra said, it has been very difficult. So there were several challenges. The first challenge is related to the document, you know. So she gave the example of superseded documents, but we have had lots of other scenarios, for example, footnotes that do not work, paragraph between 2 pages, general terminology, not because we don't write for chatbot, we write for humans. So in our policies, we mentioned, for example, staff member, but then the chatbot doesn't understand if it's national staff or international staff. We understand as humans because we have the context, but the chatbot doesn't have the context. So we add, you know, to how to add this information to the chatbot. The other part was the terminology. The UN terminology is super specific. In HR, we use lots of jargons, acronyms, synonyms, things like that. GPT is trained on the public sector terminology stuff, you know. So for us, a staff member and an employee and an affiliate is not the same, but for ChatGPT, it's the same. So, you know, like how to, so we try to index our definition, we try to index our acronyms, and sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't work. We are not able to index our antonyms. So to say, for example, that yes, employee is different from staff member. This is not possible at the moment. So all of these type of issues, it has been complicated. At some point, we were thinking, should we hire 100 people to rewrite completely all documents? But at the same time, the issue is that we cannot do that because we want to have the reference. So as I showed before, we want to see that when we ask a question, the staff member or the HR can click and see our policy as the reference. And if we rewrite, then we cannot do that. So we had to give up. So yeah, we went back and forth, trying different things, looking at options like the RAG, doing graph RAG. Should we do machine learning to bring more context, how we can address these issues? And yes, it has been lots of testing again and again and again, week after week, month after month, most of the time without positive results, going back. So yeah, difficult, but okay. But you know, I'm not using this session as a catharsis, you know, like, but it's still good to exchange.
No, this is
feedbacks.
really wonderful feedback. I think this is going to be helping a lot of others who want to jump into that, because I mean, what you're doing with HR could be also transferable and applicable to other thematic areas of work. And I'm also like laughing at Joanna's comment that, you know, we've been complaining about the UN language. We're now like, you know, generative AI came to change the world of generating language and changing the way we do. But now we are stuck. We want our language to be there rather than simplifying it and abiding by it. That's also because those are policies and rules that sometimes we need to stick to where it is. Just a side question, follow up to that part, because we're also interested in the language part, and then I'll come to finish the other questions. Have you tried to actually give complete autonomy to generative AI? So rather than, I know that using Azure, you have to orchestrate conversation. You have to link the documents and do a lot of work in pointing out where everything are, and you know, leading the conversation in a way that is very constructed. While I mean, from my experience, custom GPTs in general does not have that orchestrations of conversation. It builds on the giant generative AI tool where it goes to find out where the information is. Of course, there is a risk that it might not find the information if you have too much or similar policies and all of that. And I was wondering if, you know, the risk of, you know, just you need to point where the information is could be also eliminated with using flexible or using the power of generative AI to find the answer and, you know, refer to where it is rather than giving it exactly as it is.
Yeah, we tried different things. So the first, so we tried only the basic semantic search, like hybrid search, as you said, keep it really open. But what was the issue there is what sometimes we didn't get all of the documents. Usually to answer a question, a complex HR question, we need to have a reference to the staff regulations and rules, to our policies, and sometimes to other guidance. And when we did that, I don't know, maybe it was too many documents or something. It was not always finding all of the documents that we wanted to find. So then we had to redirect a bit to make sure but when we try to redirect too much, make it by theme, like for example, benefits and entitlements, and then it didn't work also. So I'm trying to summarize, but so now it's a kind of in between where we have reduced the parameters for the search. So it's just searching for 10 paragraphs of documents, semantic. But yeah, I don't know, maybe there is a better way, but we have tried different scenarios. I think the other thing we have tried is the reformulation of the question. So the LLM first will try to understand the question and reformulate it for Azure to look for the document and then bring back the result. And I think this improved also the solution, but I'm not an IT specialist, so maybe I'll let Caroline explain also.
We observed the similar behavior. Then when you ask it to rewrite the question, so it would be better understood by the model, for example, fix the spell errors, etc. But also like for the retriever, we yielded better results.
We also, maybe, I don't know if I want to speak for Claudia on this, but when we moved from Chat GPT 3.5, and I know this might be a little bit off topic, we found with the our finance spot, which is similar to the HR, but I think more structured documents, maybe easier because they were job aids that were not so much terminology and they were more consistent, but still we had hallucinations, or it would be what did we call it? They were not hallucinations, but not accurate, or they're not close enough responses. They were kind of going off a little bit. With ChatGPT 4.0 mini, we find that the accuracy is much better. Just the model itself tends to give better results. Now, what's doing that behind the scenes? I'm not the specialist on those, if it's vectors, if it's chunking differently or it's doing something different, but we're finding the results are better with 4.0 mini. Claudia, I think that was your reaction so far, right? We just moved to that just recently.
Yeah. So we tried the 3.5, we tried the 4, we tried the 4.0 and 4 mini, and yeah, we saw better results with those. But every time we were playing also with the chunking, but at the end, yes, it was better. So there is hope that with the next model.
And should I say that we're
you.
also hopefully moving to chat to try GraphReg in the near future? So we have commitment, I think, from one of our partners, innovation, and perhaps HR. We're still in discussion to leverage that and try that next year, so early next year. So if anyone's interested in being part of the journey with us to hear how it works, it's a bit of an investment. We found it's more than I thought it was going to be. But I think the promise of results are pretty amazing if you're going to look across documents and not just the top 5 or the top 6. And we've got a few use cases where we really need to look through the entire corpus and look at trends, for instance, migration, asylum, transmigration trends. It's across all the reports. So we have quite a few use cases pending this. So it's changing every day, like you said, Alexandra, and others. Every day is something new.
And one of the tracks that we are working on, the second one is for evaluation report. So you probably all have the projects, and by the end of, not only by the end of the project, you have like a terminal evaluation, but you have like a midterm evaluation. So one of the things that we are working on is basically also AI-powered search, but on the different corpus of the evaluation reports. And there, the question would be like, for example, tell me about lessons learned on the projects implemented in India on renewable energy. And this is where it like goes a bit one step above, like cross synthesis. And this is where I must say we are very happy with Gemini Flash model, because it has a big context window. Yeah, because a limitation in the 4.0 model is a context window. It's only 8,000 characters, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
In Gemini, it's 1 million context windows. So this is where we go kind of
Yeah.
happy, and it's very cost efficient. Yeah. Relatively cheap, and but we were like more like why we decided to go with Google. We didn't have any Azure deployment. We just did the Azure AI landing zone deployment, so we didn't have, let's say, to reuse our investment at that time. And Google, they were more responsive to us than Microsoft. So yes, so far we are happy, but let's see what the future holds, you know.
Right. Thank you so much, Alexandra. And it would be really great to hear more about also your Google experience, since a lot of us are stuck with Microsoft. But I wanted to give a chance to other colleagues from other agencies. If you have examples that you're proud of, or examples that you're working with to add into the diversity of example, please come in. Don't be shy. I know a lot of you have lots of great ideas. It doesn't have to be a complete project yet. It could be also an idea that you're working on, or something that you're also curious and need help from other colleagues to give you advice. It's good that we have many colleagues who have used different platforms. Steven, you want to come in?
Yeah, so I don't have a sample to show, unfortunately, because which leads to my question. I work in safeguards at the IAE, and we have an extremely locked down, secure, firewalled environment. So actually, it's two things. One, I'll just kind of talk up something that we have done internally, which is actually create our own on-prem LLM chat service that functionality wise, they've been adding additional features to it. So it's starting to rival some of the frontier models, but it's based on Llama. I don't think they've got the latest model in there. I think there's some Mistral components in it too. But anyways, that's not what we're here for. More to talk about GPTs. I would love to, and I've been experimenting and playing around with GPTs in ChatGPT for a while. I would love to create an external facing. I'm actually involved in member state capacity building, member state training, and I would love to be able to provide them, because obviously some pretty technical, complex topics, difficult to onboard people in those environments. A lot of turnover, a lot of resource constraints. And so anything that we can provide to them that would be help that be more productive, get up to speed more quickly on some of their obligations that they have around safeguards. Problem, obviously, is even though we have a lot of public access documents that we could load into a GPT and help to fine tune it, but at the same time, we can't take the risk, because of the nature of the work that we do, of any erroneous information, any kinds of hallucinations getting out there. So my question to the group is: are any of you encountered? Because it sounds like most of what you're doing is internal facing, and that would be a different ballgame, obviously. I'm wondering if anybody is dealing with member state, external facing, client facing GPTs, and how you've managed to reconcile the potential issues with having inaccurate information going out to them.
I think that's the $10 million question.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us.
I've been asking it for a while.
You look at Air
Awesome.
Canada's example where they gave incorrect information on a flight, a bereavement leave. I don't know if some of you read that. And Air Canada said, well, that chatbot's not me. It's its own legal entity. Well, they lost. So they now have to back up what they say, or at least acknowledge that it could be incorrect. So we're going the way of a data privacy statement and data protection and some I guess, caveats for our end users, and we are looking to extend beyond internal. Right now, our bots are all internal, but we are looking to go to our partners, for instance, to have some bots that would extend out to USA for UNHCR, et cetera, our fundraising partners and beyond. So I don't know if that's what you're thinking, Stephen, but that's our risk as well as, how far do we go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
I think
we have safeguards agreements with all of our member states, and so the legal basis of these agreements is it's very specific and very strict, and in some cases the processes that are involved as far as reporting and verification and material witness evaluation can be quite technical, and so yeah, it's just, if somebody's asking a specific question and gets a specific answer, but that specific answer isn't correct, then
yeah. I think Leah might have also some insights because her solutions also deal with that question. I also heard about WP South House Exchange, who's like also developing or wanting to develop that AI platform where they can provide support to governments to see their national data and get access to that information while having the technology to offer a recommendation to others. Not sure how far they went with that project, but I think that would be also a good agency to check with. But back to you, Leah.
Great. Yeah, just wanted to note we are working and developing these reports for governments. So certainly there's a bit more of I don't know, a custom kind of artisanal methodology that we're approaching, where governments are part of the process. We have conversations with governments about the limitations, and so that really helps us out. I think we also frame this, and of course it's different than maybe some of the chatbots, but we frame this as input information that you can use as a starting point for discussions with stakeholders. So we frame it in a very specific way. So that way the countries are very more motivated to make sure to review the results. And we even sometimes consider that, and this is likely not the case, especially with HR, those kind of issues, but we even consider sometimes that it's okay that the models aren't perfectly accurate, or sometimes the accuracy is not at the level where maybe we'd like, because it offers an opportunity for governments to really review it in detail and make sure that they're having a role, and rather than give them a perfect solution that is developed through AI, instead they are the solution, that they're bringing the solution, and the AI is just providing an initial step. Obviously, it's a different work that we're doing maybe, but to support policy analysis through AI. But yeah, I think because we're transparent about it, because we're having conversations with governments that it is AI, and then because we're encouraging stakeholder engagement and expert review, it kind of helps us out. And because we're emphasizing national expertise. So that kind of helps us get around some of those concerns.
Also, maybe to add that this also the technology is looking into this seriously, and I've seen like in some of the new models is providing that the explanation behind how the decision made by the AI have went through with the chain of thoughts, with all of this like slow thinking, rather than getting into a faster answer that might not be the perfect answer. I think also the technology is getting back to this is like, okay, wait, if we are going to be using generative AI seriously, then we might be accountable for those kind of answers. It does not mean if we say that the chatbot can create mistakes, that takes out the accountability. And some businesses and agencies would not accept this as a product that they would buy and invest in. And I think that's the case for a lot of us within the UN, especially if we're working with sensitive topics. But I think the business need for that kind of accuracy is driving the technology to also evolve in that direction. And I know it's not going to be, perfect, 100% in the next few years, but I feel like this is where the technology is evolving to, with the new model, at least from what we see from different agencies, enabling citation, enabling chain of thoughts, explanation. You can see even how the AI is coming to that decision-making trees right now. And I wonder if that would be enough for us to say, okay, we need to accept the fact that SUS AI system will make mistakes. We as a provider of the solution and you as a receiver of the solution or at the end, we all need to agree that mistakes could happen. Are we willing to give that a chance of that? There might be some mistakes could happen the same way that some report in some of our research could be. And then governments and also the end user will have to do their due diligence, their review to trust or not to trust that thing? Or is it a question of accountability at the end, of who accountable for that mistake? Is it the technology? Is it those who are offering the service, or those who are going to take it and just go with that without having to do the double check? It's a lot of question, and I think this is where the debate gets more interesting. Any other colleagues have experiences that you want to share with that, privacy question? Yes, Martin, come in, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you first for this initiative. I'm very happy to see this happening at the UN. And I was really excited by the presentation you did, Emad, last time on the webinar. And actually that really encouraged me to create the first attempt to create a custom ChatGPT taking a premium license. So thank you for this presentation, and thank you for all the colleagues who shared their experience with ChatGPT. So just to give you some context on the intent of this custom ChatGPT. So I'm working for UNDCO, the Development and Coordination Office for the UN Secretariat. And we work a lot with the efficiency reform. And the first and main intent with the custom ChatGPT is really for internal use. And really, as we are moving forward on this work with the efficiency reform, we just wanted to make sure that what we are doing is aligned with the roadmap goals. So this is really a very basic question. And this is also, the intent is also to help newcomers when they join the team to be able to chat with a bot that could help them not just to absorb all the information. While colleagues can also be present, the bot can also be very helpful. So this is the main intent, the main purpose of this tailored ChatGPT. So I shared the link. I don't know if you could have access to this one, but my first question maybe is to the presenters, so maybe very basic questions. As you were presented your chatbot, I just wanted to make sure that what you did is actually connected to the custom ChatGPT that you shared, Emad, at the last presentation, because this looks very different from the one I have, or maybe there's some layout that you might have added to the design. So just that first question. And also maybe a second question about the model. When you actually were talking about fine-tuning the model, I just wanted to make sure if that needs any IT skills to actually refine the model, or do you use the interface, the custom ChatGPT interface, to kind of get something more accurate in terms of response? So those are my two questions. Or maybe I'm going to add a third one while I'm speaking. So it's more about the audience when you're actually creating this AI chatbot, ChatGPT. I just wanted to know Are you actually using it for internal use, or are you actually making this also public to other staff at the UN? So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Martin, and congratulations on your ChatGPT. I think this is exciting journey, and I'm sure it's going to be not the last one. Just about the interface, I think a lot of different platforms can offer different, interfaces. So you created with ChatGPT, so you're getting the interface that is available to custom GPTs on ChatGPT. While Copilot, for example, is also using the same technology as ChatGPT, it offers a different interface that you can customize based on your company. You can create something also on ChatGPT, but also call it on an API that could be hosted on your website. So you're giving people the look and feel, but it's still at the using the same kind of functions at the end. So it's also dependent on how much money do you have, how much you want to invest in your technological sphere to use Copilot, Studio, for example, or if you want to do more advanced with Azure. These are, offer different functions, and I think also for separate audience. From our side, we are using some internally for our staff. We're opening some to also other agencies, especially with private links. And we also built some public facing GPTs. One of them is about, a guide to the Commission on the Status of Women, what it is, the history, recommendation, how to develop a national report, and getting mentorship about the UN language and how to affect the recommendations. I hope that was helpful. We have 5 minutes, and I know this is like really rich conversation, and I wish that we have even more time. And I have a million questions myself to a lot of you, and I feel like there's also lots of answers and experiences we can share. But there was a question in the chat about bias, and I think also, when if we can take it as a last question, I see that there was from Claudia, there was no significant bias because it was directed. I wonder if other colleagues have witnessed any biases from the different models that you're using to share. Have you used any of the technology that is reducing more bias than others? Is there any of them as getting better than this? I can start myself. So I know when the first generative AI kind of tools came in like 2 years ago, I know there was a big hype about how biased it is, misinformation, but from what I feel that the technology has evolved over the past 2 years to enhance a lot of those biases, I think through filters and through the algorithm rather than fixing the data sets. So, they inherited our biased data set, our history, our civilization, how it's infused in those billions of terabytes of data. So I think it's really going to be hard to fix the data set that a lot of those LLMs are using. But I think they are getting smarter in identifying in some of those biases, mitigating some of those. 2 years ago, you could ask for a sexist joke about women. But right now, a lot of those chatbots would refuse to tell you a sexist joke about women, but might tell you a sexist joke about men because it's funny. So I think there are some of those restrictions being put there. From my side is also to ensure that inclusion is important. In every foundational model or GPT that we have, I usually include the gender inclusive language guidelines from the UN, the disability inclusion communication guidelines, the leave no one behind principle as a base that every output that's coming from the GPT should be considering those 3 to 4 standard communication that should come out, regardless of what is the result that I want from this GPT. Okay, we have 3 minutes. So just one question of how do we want to go from here? And it's more of like the next steps. It's more of open space right now. I know this is just the start of a conversation with the creators from the UN. How do you want to, what do you wish to talk about next? Do you want to meet again? Do you want to have more structured about the technology? Do you have suggestions to more sharing? Going to discuss more challenges in what you do. We also don't need to meet again. It's all right.
I don't know, maybe a more targeted conversation for the future. For example, yeah, what we did, and you actually asked this question, yeah, how you decide what to implement next, yeah. And for example, what we did kind of like this session with Gartner where they helped us to identify it with business use cases. Then we did this assessment with the PRISM framework, whether it's like high value, high effort, etc., etc. What would be the impact? And right now, for example, we have certain initiatives that, let's say, in our pipeline. So that would be interested maybe then to connect with other agencies that may be working on the same things, you know, and to hear the experience. Because, for example, one of the use cases that we have, and I'm pretty sure it's quite common across the whole UN, when you create a document, there are different compliance checks that needs to be done, and it's like called compliance checklist. It goes to one person, it has its own policy, and then it's like cross-reference checks. So maybe that one would be somebody's working on that one, you know, so yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexandra. Claudia, you want to come in?
I would be interested in maybe 3 things. The first one would be to hear from Alexandra about Google Gemini, because I'm curious to see how, you know, like,
Yeah, sure.
what's
We can.
what's the comparison between Google and Microsoft? Because we are always looking at other models, you know, but we don't have the time to experiment with Llama and everything. Just to see a bit the differences between the different models. And the other thing will be how organizations are trying to address the challenge that we have discussed before to bring more context. So we were looking, as Caroline was saying, about GraphRag, and we were looking at you know, fine-tuning and machine learning, but we had a call already with IFAD, and they told us that to do machine learning, we need to have 1,000 perfect questions and answers. And even if we are 13 organizations together and we probably have the capacity to do that, everybody is telling us it's a black box and we are not sure it will work. So, and both scenarios require quite a lot of investment in terms of infrastructure and all of this. So yeah, we would be interested in exchanges on this if organizations are trying to tackle it also at the same time as us. But in general, I just wanted to thank all of you because I think we really need more collaboration and more exchanges on these topics because we are still struggling all with the same difficulties and it's still very new. And although our colleagues, they don't always understand this, it's important to exchange to improve. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Other last insights? Also appreciating the chat. Those are all wonderful ideas. I think it's thanks to the UN Innovation Group and to organize this. This was not meant to be for everyone. It's mostly for the creators and for those who are actually like digging deep and still like in that black box of the new technology. I think from me, my side, I feel like now it's great to hear from a lot of like-minded people who are looking into this from the creator side, from the technological side, from how the technology is evolving. But as we see, there's so many platforms, so many tools. So it's good to really hear from others how was their experience to save time for other agencies. Maybe you actually save them not only just time, but also an investment in new technologies. I've been hearing a lot from other agencies, thoughts and plans to experiment with different AI tools. and I secretly know like, oh, this might not work, or like in a month the technology will move on from this, and I wish I could say this like outright, or I see if I wish there is someone who could share those also failures and mistakes, and we are proud to share them so others can avoid do things, especially when it comes to technology. So I would love to hear more from other agencies, especially with those comparisons with different platforms, to even come with conclusions and comparison for our UN colleagues about what are the best models right now that could save a lot of other colleagues that hassle of trying to find out which one is best, especially if they are making a decision while they are not the technological part. And then the second point is that we need to move on from that AI is an ICT challenge or an ICT topic to more programmatic colleagues need to be involved in those conversations, because our needs is more than just an IT and the technology. We have the human side, and I think we need more programmatic colleagues to be understanding of the technology to also assess the needs and provide more things. I would take this, and I would hope that we could open up this to more creators within the UN. We will discuss with the UN Innovation Group. I know that this is going to be more meetings, but more conversations, simpler, but also targeted. We can come back with you with few ideas probably next year, or after the end of this quarter, and then we can take this further with new innovation. But do please share more of what you're working on. At least if we're getting more questions about this, we can repair them to colleagues who have done amazing work. And then finally to say, thank you so much for all of this amazing work. You're stepping into, an adventure, and it's full of challenges, and it takes a lot of courage within our UN context. And I really appreciate that you're also making the time to share this with everyone. And that's it from my side. And just back to maybe Joanna, if you want to close up, or Fiona.
Oh, I think perfectly closed, Emmett. We're over time already. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll follow up via email. I think there were a couple of concrete ideas on how we could connect. I'll follow up via email on because we really don't want to create meetings that you don't want to attend. But if there's interest, very happy to do so again. And it seems like there are a bunch of topics that might be of interest. So thanks everyone for joining, and wishing you a good day.
Thank you for organizing this.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.